Go, go.
Undertale, through a gamer's eyes. I read Callie Plague's review of Undertale on IGN, Imagine Games Network. In her review, she makes it known that she loves the game. She begins her review by writing, I finished my first playthrough of Undertale in stunned silence. She explains how she liked the combat system, and how the game always broke her expectations. Plague also found the game relatable, writing, there are tons of jokes that appeal to internet nerds, and I often felt like Undertale was talking directly to me, like it knew what I was thinking. An anime-loving character's selfie, for example, is actually a picture of a garbage can with pink sparkle filters over it. And speaking from experience, this is very accurate. She later argues that experiencing the depth of monsters' hopes and dreams is crucial to Undertale's exploration of morality, personhood, and conflict. She does admit that she finds a couple of things somewhat tedious, the boss fights and constant backtracking. While discussing these boss fights, she writes, I had to grind quite a bit to meet certain story requirements and grew a bit tired of it after a while. However, she follows it up by saying that the difficulty is balanced out by the puzzles. As for the backtracking, she just found it to be annoying. She says that, at one point, I had run out of gold and needed to buy healing items. And the only shop that would buy items off me was about a 10-minute walk away. At the end of her review, she gives Undertale a 10 out of 10, calling it a masterpiece and pinning it a work of art.
Have you ever watched a movie or a television show where you find yourself becoming emotionally attached to a character? Well, in Undertale, you eventually grow attached to most of the cast. Undertale is a turn-based RPG by indie developer Toby Fox. The protagonist is a gender-neutral child who has fallen into a hole, into a place unknown, or a place known as the Underground, a vast underground cavern. The monsters were banished long ago, ever since the war against the humans. Because of their banishment, there exists between the monsters and the human world a magic barrier. The child makes it his mission. You just said it's gender neutral. The child makes it his mission to escape the underground, overcoming any challenges they encounter on their adventure.
Controls and gameplay. Undertale is, at its core, an RPG. However, there are aspects of it that differ from the familiar turn-based gameplay we have come to expect. When attacking or defending an enemy, a box with a short minigame appears. How successful or unsuccessful you are in these determines how much damage you take. Attack minigames involve stopping a bar at the exact moment it crosses the middle of a slider. The closer to the center, the more damage you deal. As for the defense minigames, they mostly play like a bullet hell. Bullet hell is a genre of games where you control a character and dodge waves of bullets. In Undertale, you move around a heart to avoid getting hit by any projectiles. Bosses, however, differ when it comes to the defense mechanics. This keeps the game interesting by switching up the gameplay now and then.
Another unique feature about Undertale is that attacking is not the only option. In fact, there are two other options, Act and Mercy. When you choose to act, you're presented with several different ways to interact with the enemy. Some of the options can be friendly and include actions such as flirt or hug. However, there are also actions such as threat, insult, or pick on. Pick the wrong interaction, and whatever monster you may be fighting may grow more aggressive. Pick the correct interaction, and the monster may decide that it no longer wants to fight you. If this occurs, the Mercy action becomes available. When you select Mercy, you are given the option to spare the monster, ending the battle in a non-violent way.
Like any RPG, Undertale is more than just fighting monsters. Throughout the game, you encounter several puzzles that must be solved to continue your journey through the caves. These puzzles, however, are not very difficult. Many of the puzzles are solved for you by the monsters because they underestimate your ability. They are not designed to be roadblocks, but rather to serve as a change of pace.
I just want to make sure my thing was picking this up. Character and personality. There is one thing Toby Fox designed perfectly when creating Undertale. It is the characters.
Every character has their own personality that makes them stand apart from the rest of the cast. The main character is designed to be sort of a blank canvas onto which the character paints themselves. While the child is somewhat of a bland, emotionless character, the monsters are the complete opposite. From the very first interaction with the Goat Mother tutorial, to the eventual encounter of Sans, the wisecracking skeleton, there's never a dull moment. As I mentioned before, the humor in this game is excellent. Without revealing too much, you go from listening to two skeletons argue about whether a word search is a puzzle or not, to meeting a scientist with an anime addiction, to having a flex off with a mer horse, half mermaid, half horse. These examples, along with an expanse of other hilarious moments, is enough to make even the most sinister people smile.
Graphics and sound. There is nothing particularly special about the graphic style of Undertale. The art style is nothing out of the norm and is quite tame compared to the rest of the game. However, do not let the simple look of the game turn you away from playing, because the soundtrack could single-handedly carry Undertale. It is composed and orchestrated entirely by one man, the creator himself, Toby Fox. Every song is a masterpiece that crosses many genres, spanning from 16-bit chiptune to folk and heavy metal. These musical themes are used in different ways and different variations of songs throughout the game. While on the topic of sound, I should add that there is no voice acting, aside from some laughter here and there. Instead, each character has their own unique theme. These themes line up with the personality and attitude of each character and quickly make up for the lack of voice acting. Regardless of the mostly 16-bit style of the soundtrack, Undertale's music is timeless and bound to bring forth some sort of emotion.
Replayability. A significant problem in video games today is replayability. Developers strive to design their games so they can be played multiple times, over and over without exhausting or boring the player. Undertale succeeds in this category by way of 3 possible endings. When you first start playing the game, you have 3 possible routes to take: neutral, pacifist, and genocide. Many players will go through the game on the neutral route, unaware of the existence of the other 2. The pacifist route requires you to complete the game without killing any monsters and select particular dialogue options throughout the game. The genocide route requires you to complete the game by murdering anything that stands in your way. Undertale is not a very long game. It'll take about 3 hours to complete it if you know what you're doing. I logged 10 hours after defeating the game for the 3rd time. The inclusion of 3 ways to play the game is enough to keep the player coming back. That, included with the fact that characters in the game remember decisions you made in previous playthroughs, makes each adventure unique. You forgot a period.
Undertale was a game that steadily blew me away with the way the characters, music, environments, and splitting routes are utilized. It's impossible to put into words how much I love this game without spoiling anything. Toby Fox has truly created a masterpiece that not only entertains for hours on end, but, in the end, has us questioning our morality. Is violence always the answer? Do we have to resolve everything conventionally? How can I be a more merciful person? These, along with many more, are a few questions that I found myself mulling over. The game has a level of relatability that is hard to find in games these days, and I appreciate that. Undertale is genuinely a game designed to mask serious moral questions with hilarious, enthralling gameplay. And Toby Fox has mastered this as a game developer. One of the best games, and certainly the best RPG I have ever played. I could not recommend playing any other game more than Undertale. Score, 10 out of 10.
I love the entire time we were reading that, the music seemed to perfectly match. Did you notice that?
Yeah,